Welcome, everybody. This is the inaugural National Nira Day. Today, we are celebrating an ingredient that millions of people around the world enjoy every day, yet most Americans over here have never heard of it. It's called Nira, and it's the sweet nectar harvested from the blossoms of a coconut tree. You can picture that. Before it becomes coconut sugar, before it transforms into coconut aminos, which are the products that we sent to all of you, before it flavors sauces and marinades and some of the most popular, better for you foods on your grocery shelves, and we'll talk about what those are, it starts as Nira. And for centuries, families across Indonesia have climbed these coconut palms at sunrise and sunset to harvest this remarkable sap, and they do it by hand. And that ancient tradition has quietly supplied one of the world's most sustainable and versatile food ingredients, a naturally sweet, naturally savory foundation that bridges health, culture, environment, all of it. So today, as consumers are seeking fewer artificial ingredients, less processed foods, and products with really authentic stories, Nira is now having its moment. So that's why Big Tree Farms created National Nira Day. We're going to shine a light on the farmers, the traditions, the regenerative agriculture practices behind this ingredient that is really shaping the modern pantry. And today's conversation is going to be about food transparency and the growing demand for minimally processed ingredients and sustainable farming that supports this, and also the Indonesian culinary traditions that have been using Nira for generations. So Big Tree Farms is really uniquely positioned to lead this discussion. They are the world's largest producer of Nira-based ingredients, and the company partners with more than 19,000 Indonesian farming families that actually bring the coconut sugar and nectar and aminos and all of these Bali-inspired sauces to kitchens around the world now. So if you've ever enjoyed a product sweetened with coconut sugar, it's probably Big Tree Farms that helped make that possible. So today we're fortunate enough to have three experts with us to talk about this. We have Ben Ripple. He is the CEO and founder of Big Tree Farms, and he is the pioneer who brought this to us, pioneer in regenerative agriculture and really this global movement. I say quietly, it's about to get loud, of bringing Nira and also Indonesian food culture to the mainstream. And Chef Maya Aldi is an Indonesian-born American master chef. Chef Maya has been exploring, but will explain to us how Nira has shaped Indonesian cuisine for centuries, and why its naturally balanced sweetness and umami-like flavor make it really, really versatile. And we also have Bridget Zetlin, RD, lots of letters, MPH, RD, CDN, very qualified dietitian. Bridget is here to help us understand as we move towards whole recognizable ingredients, really where Nira-based products fit into that conversation around nutrition and mindful eating and healthier food choices. So together we're going to explore the history, the culture, the culinary applications, the environmental impact, and certainly the nutritional impact of this ingredient. And I want to talk about what Nira is, what Nira Day is about, and what how we can embrace this, what chefs are doing, and educate us a little bit on regenerative farming. So we're going to take you from the flower to the table here, the complete journey from coconut blossom in Bali to the products found all across America today. And for those hearing the word for the first time, I would love Ben to explain to us what exactly Nira is and why it's been such an important part of Indonesian culture for centuries.
Yeah, sure. So, National Nira Day. Well, I was about to say 25 plus years in the making, but actually it's more like 900 years in the making. Yeah, Nira has, we like to say Nira's cultural hearth is Indonesia. This is the place where, the ingredient and the culture became one. Nira has for, like I said, 900 years. If you know, there were ancient Javanese inscriptions that showed people climbing and harvesting flower nectar. And over the past many centuries, we know from written record, both from Dutch and Indonesians, that Nira production and the derivatives that would be produced from Nira were an essential part of Indonesian heritage, sustaining of local communities, and the connection between many centuries, from century to century, and from family to family, passing down knowledge. Um, Nira itself is, and Pam said it's a flower nectar, but it's more than that. So Nira is the water of life for the tree of life. So you may have heard that coconut has been called the tree of life. In many different Southeast Asian cultures, coconut is known as the tree of life in Indonesia and Sri Lanka and India. And the reason they call it the tree of life is because every single part of the coconut can be used. But what most people think of as every single part is like the coconut and the coconut meat and the water and maybe the palm fronds and perhaps the wood. But what most people don't realize is that Nira that flows from the flowers that are high, high up in the canopy of the tree before there are ever nuts, um, is actually the most valuable asset of the coconut tree. So, from the tree's perspective, that Nira, it nurtures the tree as it grows. It produces the coconuts. It gives the food to produce the coconuts. It grows the leaves, the palm fronds. It supplies them with energy to drive photosynthesis. But it's also been, for many, many centuries, a core ingredient and livelihood for many, many hundreds of thousands of producers in Indonesia. So Nira itself is it's water that's brought up through the roots of the coconut palm and then moves through the trunk of the tree very, very slowly, and all the way up to the top of the flowers. And producers, traditional producers, will climb the tree slowly, 20, 30 meters into the canopy of the tree, and then cut the very tip of the flower. And over time, that the Nira will drip, literally drip one drop at a time from those flowers into a waiting collection vessel. And they do this harvest process twice a day, every single day. And the coconut palm will put forward about 1.5 to 3 liters of flower nectar every single day of its life. And that Nira can be then taken down. It can be allowed to you can drink it. I mean, it's a very traditional energy drink in Indonesia. And I can attest to the fact that when you drink Nira, you can definitely climb coconut trees. It's also an amazing source of vinegar in all over Southeast Asia. So the Nira, if it's allowed to ferment, will first go to alcohol and then it will ferment into acetic fermentation into a beautiful vinegar and alcohol. So, in most of Indonesia, which is predominantly Islamic, this one use of Nira is not such a big hit. But certainly on the island where I live in Bali, Indonesia, many farmers partake after a long day's work of a fresh bucket of tuak wine. Literally, by the time you harvest it in the morning until the time you finish your chores, you have basically an Indonesian version of pet knot ready to drink as the sun sets in the west. So, many different uses of Nira, but probably one of the most famous in Indonesia is the evaporation of fresh Nira and the caramelization of fresh Nira into what's called coconut sugar. And so, coconut sugar, my relationship with Nira in the Indonesian archipelago first came about with coconut sugar and my connection with farmers. But we'll get into that in a little bit later. Suffice to say that Nira is a magical ingredient from a magical tree, and it's the source of not only hundreds and hundreds of thousands of livelihoods across Indonesia, but it's also a key part of Indonesian culinary cultural heritage.
Now, we couldn't have any of the farmers here today live with us because of the time difference. Is it 4 a.m.? They're about to go start harvesting the Nira. Can I play a little video of our farmers to
Please
just
do.
share with everybody here? Okay. I'd like to do that. So we're bringing them to you. Can everybody see the screen? Great.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Marmo, petani buah kelapa
Oops.
dari Desa Dusun Pelampang 3, Kalirejo, Bokap, Kulon Progo, Yogyakarta. Nira itu dari bunga kelapa yang diiris dari mangga, yang di bawahnya ditampung pakai bumbung. Pagi dan sore saya sebagai seorang petani benderes rata-rata bisa memanen nira sebanyak 20 pohon. Kemudian hasil panen nira saya bawa pulang, saya serahkan kepada istri, dibawa ke dapur untuk diproses menjadi gula. Bagi saya menjadi petani penderes itu memberikan manfaat ekonomi untuk keluarga saya. Kami mengucapkan terima kasih kepada PT Bening yang telah mendampingi dan membeli hasil gula kami. Kami berharap kerjasama dan pendampingan ini akan terus berlanjut.
It appears to be as you describe. I mean, it's great to have a visual of that as you describe. Can you, before we get into what it does for us on shelf, can you talk about how what the harvesting means for these communities and for regenerative agriculture in general?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that still amazes me more than any other aspect of Nira is its capacity to provide living wages at levels that really in tropical agriculture are rarely seen. And what do I mean by that? So most people, when they think of coconut, they think of the coconut, right? What most people don't know about coconut and the commodity of the coconut is that, with the exception of a few nuts out of the total that get sold for fresh coconut water, most of these nuts are sold into a supply chain that is commonly understood to be a bit of a poverty trap. Small farmers growing coconuts tend not to make much value from those coconuts. Even less so if the coconuts, as they are typically processed in Indonesia, go into what's called the copra supply chain, which is effectively coconuts split in half, dried in the sun, or in smoking dryers for use in the industrial oil industry. Not a lot of revenue to be made, not a lot of livelihood improvement to be made. And when we work with our farmers, even today, and this is 25 years after we started, the average income variance between a farmer who collects the fresh flower nectar and processes coconut sugar or another derivative, and a farmer who harvests coconuts for sale into their value chain, it's a 4 to 5x change in their family income. So it's truly not only and it doesn't just create amazing products. It really does truly create amazing changes in the livelihoods of the communities that we work with. And as Pam mentioned, we work with today over 19,000. I think the latest count, actually, we just had another certification the other day. I think we're up to just about 21,000 farmers in our program, certified organic, fair trade, and now about 50% of those are regenerative organic certified through the Regenerative Organic Alliance. What does that mean? Well, really, mainly it is a recognition of the amazing agricultural system that Nira is produced in. So regenerative organic is different than organic in that organic certification is a certification that constrains the practices by limiting, or I should say, by prohibiting the use of chemicals for the production of the crops that we eat, right? Regenerative organic goes much further. Regenerative organic says that we want to make sure that the agricultural system in which the food that we're going to eat is produced is creating net improvements in that environmental system. And not only that, but net improvements in the social community that's producing that food, right? And so regenerative organic certification is a unique certification that goes beyond organic. So you need to show net soil improvement, soil biological improvement. You need to show your producers need to be fair trade certified. And this goes as this production system of Nira with almost 1,000 years of heritage really exemplifies all of the values that are sort of baseline to the regenerative organic certification concept, right? So Nira is produced from the coconut palm. In Indonesia, these coconut palms are produced in food forests. What's a food forest, right? Sounds cool, but what does it really mean? So a food forest is, and I always say food forest, I don't like the word agroforestry because when we say agroforestry, we're really, I think, usually talking about timber crops mixed with some agriculture on the ground. This goes way beyond that. This is the most amazing system. So food forests for me are characterized by many, many, many different food crops. You have trees like coconut and durian and jackfruit interspersed with critical timber species like mahogany and teak, interspersed with sort of medium level crops like banana and papaya and cassava and cacao and coffee, and then with a ground cover across the landscape of ginger and turmeric and galangal and vanilla vines growing up the sides of the trees. It's something very special. It's a magical system, and it's really only found traditionally across Indonesia.
We need a visual
And
of that, Ben, because that's hard for people to visualize.
yeah, I know. I mean, it's pretty amazing when I bring people to the supply chain, and the first 5 minutes I just walk around and point out all the different species. And yes, you can eat that one, and yes, you can eat that one. That one you build your house with, and this one you feed to the goats, and this one is a legume, and it feeds the whole system with nitrogen. And then it's an amazing system for a few reasons. Number one, nobody told them how to do that, right? That's what traditional wisdom is. And I think that's one of the most incredible aspects of traditional agriculture that's lost today, right? We always think that within a very, very short window of time, we can come up with something better, and then we drive it into the market, and it replaces systems many times that actually were in were actually at balance in nature, and systems that we should have learned much more about. This is one of those systems that we should learn a lot more about. Indonesian coconuts, where Nira is harvested in our supply chain. Just to give you some ideas, they use no irrigation. These are fully rain-fed systems. Biodiversity in these systems is akin to rainforest plots. The soil is being built at nearly a record rate because the incredible sequestration of carbon dioxide in tons that's being delivered to the food forest plot. We do track carbon sequestration in our farms, and to date, in our supply chains, we've sequestered over 15,000 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent in our farms with our farmers, and we have a goal to do over 50,000 tons of carbon dioxide.
I think this is a lot for people who have never heard of Nira and don't know what Nira is.
Sure.
There's a lot of information here, and I think this is interesting for people to hear, but I think first and foremost, you guys have been probably eating Nira and don't realize it because if we think we have 19,000 farmers in Indonesia and all these trees, it's in products here that you don't even realize that Ben and Big Tree Farms have been bringing over. I really surprising point I want, Chef Maya to really talk about here is I think the biggest surprise for people is that Nira doesn't actually taste like coconut. So how do we describe the flavor profile, Maya? Like what is it that Ben is talking about here? How are we using this in our everyday lives without even realizing it that it comes from Big Tree Farms?
Yeah, I think um for some people who new to Nira, the big surprise is that it doesn't taste like coconut or coconut water. For From a chef point of view, a fresh Nira has a very delicate, sweet, floral, a hint of acid to it. Like Ben said, people consume it right away to get through their day, to get that boost of energy. And also Ben mentioned it turned into, when concentrated and cooked slowly, it turned into like this beautiful coconut sugar that has rich caramel, toffee, butterscotch-ish flavor profile. Beautiful product. And when it turned into coconut aminos, then you have this product that is rich of umami, a balanced flavor of salt, sweet. And when you use it in your cooking, it enhances other ingredients instead of overpowering. It's a beautiful product.
How is it better than a traditional sugar or because people are using the aminos as an alternative to soy sauce and they're using the sugar as an alternative sweetener. So how is that playing out?
For If you compare coconut sugar to a conventional white sugar, it has a big discrepancy in flavor, a little bit in moisture and texture. I'll be a little bit biased because I'm Indonesian. Of course, the coconut sugar tastes a lot more delicious than regular sugar. It has more character and it's just good all over on everything. Um, if you're talking about like applying it into recipes, there some recipe can use coconut sugar as it's one to one, but coconut sugar also out there has a different type of variety of coconut sugar. You have a lighter coconut sugar that has lower moisture, the darker coconut sugar or brown coconut sugar. So like any recipes in baking, sometimes it calls for regular sugar and brown sugar. So same thing. Um, for coconut aminos, in plain explanation, any recipes that would call for a product like soy sauce, hoisin sauce, oyster sauce, fish sauce, any like kind of like salt rich umami product, I want to say it's safe to say that coconut aminos is a nice substitute one to one to that or addition to that.
Healthier, cleaner,
Healthier, for sure, healthier,
tastier.
cleaner, especially people with like a strict dietary restriction, it's the way to go.
And that
While and then at the same time not jeopardizing flavor, if not better.
and then let's bring, Bridget, like everybody's looking for an alternative sweetener. So now you're here in America realizing that this is a great option, but also something that's already being used in many, many recipes and packaged goods in the States. How did you discover it? What do you think of it? How do you recommend it? How do you use it?
Absolutely. So the way I recommend it, honestly, is if you are someone who is using bottled sauces, marinades, dressings, to look for, like I'm always talking to my clients about looking for cleaner ingredient labels, looking for less processed foods, and using these bottled marinades or sauces that use coconut sugar, the Nira, is inherently a cleaner product than marinades or dressings or sauces that aren't using it. Both items are going to have a form of sugar in them. The ones that use Nira and coconut sugar are a cleaner version of it. And so that's really how I talk to my clients about switching out different products that they've grown to love and really can be a great, quick, easy, convenient way to flavor up their home cooking, but to use cleaner versions of it. And so coconut sugar is a perfect swap
And
for
let's break this down, Ben, because you have, if you want to buy the coconut sweetener plain, you buy that. You can buy the coconut amino, and you also wanted to bring Balinese food culture to the United States. So now you're using the Nira products in these sauces and marinades so that we can experience a cleaner Balinese Indonesian flavor. Also, you're supplying Nira to hundreds of brands that are using it as ingredients in their product.
Yes. Yeah, that's where. So even if you haven't bought a bag of coconut sugar or bought a bottle of coconut aminos, you probably already had the product. And if you eat granola, chances are you've had the product. If I mean, it has over the past decade, coconut sugar, especially, and to a lesser extent, coconut aminos, has really weaseled its way into the U.S. brand and manufacturer scene as a better for you alternative to cane and agave syrup and other sweeteners that are sort of fit for use in manufacturing formulations. So yeah, it's here and it's here to stay. It just took 26 years to get
And
here.
now, back to Bridget too. People are more interested in where their food, they are looking for cleaner labels and they are looking at the ingredients, but also where is the food coming from? And so that's another reason why celebrating Near a Day and educating people on the root of the coconut sugar and aminos and what is actually giving flavor to those bottled sauces is important. Do you find that? I guess on the regenerative farming part, does that make a difference in the foods that people select or that you encourage them to select?
Absolutely. I think consumers have never been smarter. They're really, really looking for intentional products. They're looking for products that give back to communities also, right? We see so many brands that promote, that they take this percentage and give it back to the community. They take this percentage of their profits and donate it there. So the fact that that is so inherent to the Nira farming and Big Tree, like it's part of their ethos. I think consumers are super excited about companies that are doing that, and the sustainability aspect also is something that is a big shift in the food industry, and where consumers are looking to spend their money on specific food items. So it's been a really cool blend of both of these, the sustainability and the ethos of giving back and building up communities, that Big Tree and Nira just like really blend together so well.
Yeah, one of
And
the things that I just want to touch on with respect to the whole better for you conversation is a bit of the why behind better for you. I hear better for you a lot. When you think about where most consumers are going to discover coconut sugar, it tends to be consumers that are currently using cane sugar and looking for some alternative. They're either open to discovery and looking for something different for a single recipe, or they're actively looking for some, change in how they're sweetening their life. And one of the things that I find so interesting about coconut sugar is that it's low glycemic. I don't know that a lot of consumers fully understand what that means. But low glycemic it is, and we've been at the forefront of testing coconut sugar on a biannual basis with third parties on humans, in trial to ensure that we feel confident with what we're talking about when we talk about the low glycemic aspect of coconut sugar. But it is a tremendous differentiation between cane sugar and coconut sugar, um, and that really speaks to our ability to metabolize and use the energy as opposed to you know, storing it for later.
I think that's a great point that Ben brings up. I think what gives it even more of an advantage, honestly, than the low glycemic aspect is the fact that it is naturally anti-inflammatory because of the antioxidants that are in it also. So if we're comparing sugar to sugar, I mean, sugar is sugar by a rose by any other name, smells as sweet. So sugar will play a role in your blood glucose level for sure. But the fact that coconut sugar is anti-inflammatory because it's higher in antioxidants, it is the least processed type of sugar. So you're going to retain the most amount of trace nutrients that are in it compared to cane sugar, compared to agave, compared to other forms of sugar. It also acts as a prebiotic, so it promotes better gut health in your body. So there's so many other aspects to coconut sugar that elevate it a little bit more. Like if you're going to use sugar, you're going to use sugar, but choosing a coconut sugar adds extra value to your health and your health goals than any other type of sugar on the market.
Maya, so Bridget's telling us this is the best possible sugar for you. Ben's telling us this is the best possible sugar for the environment. How do we use it? Like how do you traditionally use it in Indonesia, and how does that translate to our, not as healthy American diet that we're trying to make healthier?
So, as an Indonesian growing up in Indonesia before I come here, I spent a lot of time in my grandmother's kitchen. And then it's already a staple in pretty much like all families in Indonesia. Um, Without me knowing, the benefits of it, it's just the thing that they use every day. I mentioned earlier, they use it they use it widely in beverage, sweet cooking, savory cooking. Um, Sometimes I remember my grandmother made this kind of like scrub mix that has coconut sugar in it with other coconut products.
Bore.
So yeah, lulur. Um, so so without knowing, it's just something that my grandmothers or all the families and even before them use because it's local, it's available, it's abundant.
Did you keep any other sugar in the house, or this was the only sugar that you used?
I'm guilty of charts. It's all
Okay.
the sugar that, yeah. No, no,
Okay.
no, no cane sugar, no nothing. Just strictly different types of coconut sugar. I'm hooked.
Yep.
I cannot go back to like a regular sugar right now. But yeah, I mean, and then now I'm here. So naturally, because I'm Asian, when I'm cooking savory stuff, it's common to add a little bit of sweetener, coconut sugar, to your savory cooking just to balance out, the heat that they put in there, the chilies, the spices. And then I kind of apply that in like the other recipes that I cook in here, that I make in here, like other ethnic recipes, Western American California. I put it on my salad dressing. I put it on my marinades. I put it on the rub for my, when I'm making like smoked barbecue meat. So it's endless. And then as for cocoa aminos, sometimes I put it on my bolognese sauce, just to add like that rich umami flavor at the end of it. It's endless possibility of the usage with
Take
for
us
for
through the
these two
day. I
products.
mean, Bridget and Maya, we wake up in the morning, Americans, coffee,
Oh
tea,
yeah, yeah. So
yogurt,
okay,
eggs,
so
like, yeah.
I would say those two ingredients the whole day. Wake up in the morning. This is me, my personal thing. Wake up in the morning, make my coffee, coconut sugar. And then comes breakfast. Sometimes I make egg whites scrambled with avocado and all that, coconut aminos. And then sometimes I make just plain toast and I spread some butter and I sprinkle coconut sugar. So and then I would make sometimes coconut sugar syrups from coconut sugar, like caramel like, and then that I can kind of pour it on top of my French toast or waffle.
And
So
can you put
that's
it in
morning.
smoothies and
It's
yogurt?
in smoothies. You
It's
can, yeah,
already
pretty
in the
much.
granola,
It's
right?
already in the granola. And then, as far as sweet goes, if it's the weekend and you're baking, you put it, you make sweet breads with it, and like endless. And then savory, name it, stir fry, marinades, making barbecue sauce, salad dressing. So yeah, you can live with just those two ingredient in
And
your
Ben, part
in
of
your
your
pantry, I
innovation,
think.
not just the ingredients. I mean, it's the sweetener and the aminos, but now this whole line of sauces and marinades goes beyond just Nira. It's Nira Day, and we want to focus on the Nira, but it's also bringing the Indonesian culinary culture here. Was your
Yeah, so it's sort of like Nira was really the seed that grew our company. And now and Nira is so inextricably linked with with Indonesian heritage and culinary culture that
Mhm.
now that we've sort of made our coming out of the jungle, so to speak, we are our next mission, our drive is to continue to bring Nira into the forefront. But what's the vehicle? And that vehicle for us is what we call Bali Delicious. Bali being sort of the surrogate that everybody knows of Indonesia, and in Bali Delicious being our term for Indonesian culinary cultural heritage, and really bringing that to America. It's just not represented here. Nero wasn't represented here. The flavor and heritage of Indonesia really truly isn't represented in most consumers' experience in the United States. So after almost 30 years in Indonesia and almost 25 years of working with smallholders on building these supply chains and bringing Nira and the derivative products to the US, we're now using this platform to bring these other Indonesian flavors that are Nira kissed to the US market.
um I have a question here directly at me, which if anybody has questions, you could put it directly into the chat. But why haven't we heard of Nira before? Was it they put it publicly? Is there a reason why we haven't heard of Nira before?
Well, I think, when you're starting from zero, you got to choose the lessons you want to teach pretty well. And you got to keep a pretty narrow focus or else you confuse people. And as you can probably tell from the 30 minutes we've been on the call, I have a tendency to go down rabbit holes anyway. So I needed to focus on coconut sugar or coconut aminos, neither of which were in this country, rather than Nira, and then still nobody knows what the products are that we're selling. So yeah, Nira is the root ingredient from which all these products came, and and people haven't heard about it because most consumers, even if they have had coconut sugar, most consumers, even if they have had coconut aminos, they haven't gone deeper. They don't know the full story behind it.
To expand, many Americans use products made with Nira, such as coconut sugar and coconut aminos, without realizing it. Why do you think the ingredient story has remained relatively unknown, and why is it now being introduced? It's being because we've declared Nira Day, and Ben has decided that Big Tree Farms is going to talk about Nira. But, I guess the curiosity is not why now, but why hasn't it been, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, it takes a long time. You need to reach some form of critical mass before people start asking, deeper questions. And I think that's where we are today. I think we are finally at a point where, look, coconut sugar now is everywhere from Whole Foods Market to Walmart and everywhere in between, and coconut aminos likewise. So we've done, I think, our first the first chapter of our job, which was to introduce these ingredients to the United States. And now we need to really, now that people are using them, we have a vehicle straight into their mouth to tell them the story, right? And there's going to be more connection.
Technical question. I don't think coconut is an allergen, but if somebody has a sensitivity or an allergy to coconut, can they still have the coconut sweetener?
You want to take that? I mean, I can take it, but you can also take it.
I mean, I would say if you have my gut would be you should avoid it. If you are sensitive to it, this comes from a coconut. Like, let's use some common sense. Um, yeah, I would avoid it if you are sensitive to it.
So the
Ben?
FDA did remove coconuts as an allergen this year, this past year. Um, and an interesting fun fact, coconut Nira does not come from coconut. So when the nut itself is never, in fact, they don't really live in the same, they don't live the same lifetime, right? So Nira is there before the nuts are pollinated and grow. And if you're actively harvesting Nira, you're not harvesting coconuts. Still, to your point, very, very well spoken. We don't suggest people who have sensitivities to any food eat that food.
Okay. Any other questions from our guests today? Okay. Um,
Did we touch on it? I didn't hear it. I heard,
oh,
Pam, I heard you ask about it. I'm not sure it was clearly communicated, though. I wish we could do a show of hands. Uh, does coconut sugar taste like coconut? Does coconut Nira taste like coconut? No. Maya spoke to that, but coconut sugar doesn't taste like coconut. These products don't taste like coconut. And the reason being, because they're not from coconut. They're from a tree called coconut, but they're not from the coconut.
hence it's explaining what Nira is and why we need a day to celebrate this and educate people on this. Um, well, I think, I want to thank everybody. Do we have another question or a comment? Good to know, Ben. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for
Oh,
coming.
we have a question coming in.
I especially want to thank our panelists. Okay. Um, 20 years from now, what would success look like for Nira? Is it becoming a household ingredient? Or is the bigger goal changing how people think about the food systems and farming?
Good question.
Ooh, should I give you the answer that I tell my investors, or should I give the
No.
answer that I? No, I think, for me, it's any way that I can continue to scale what we've done with farmers in in these food forests, in these agroforestry systems, well, agroforestry. But and Nira is a big part of that. It's a main driver of that. And as we continue to grow, we'll be focusing on additional ingredients that come from those agroforestry farms or food forests, and how do we incorporate them into these delicious foods that we'll be bringing to market. But certainly we do want Nira to become a household ingredient. How do we do that? Well, it sort of already is, albeit I think household penetration is still low, even though it is in Whole Foods and Walmart and everywhere in between. We have a long way to go there, but not just through coconut sugar, right? There's coconut sugar, there's coconut vinegar or coconut Nira vinegar, there's coconut aminos, and the holy grail will be if we can get all Americans drinking Nira for their energy
Hmm.
instead of Red Bull.
Okay.
Is that a product forthcoming, Ben?
I guess we'll have to wait till next Nira Day.
I love the foreshadowing.
Okay, great. Well, we have a recording of this event. I think it's very obvious any of our experts would be happy to continue the conversation, doing interviews on this topic and others that they have expertise on, from the growing and agriculture perspective to the food and culinary perspective to the nutrition and health and wellness perspective. There's a lot to cover here, but there's certainly a lot more awareness that's needed on Nira in general, these products, how they impact our lives, and the planet. And I hope to explore these stories with you. We will have a recording of this. We'll put together a synopsis of this event. And again, our experts are available for interviews. So thank you, everybody, for joining. And we will be in touch. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.